Well, Lord, honey, welcome you all, and welcome to Forking Around with Chef Jason Smith and Angelina. I'm Chef Jason Smith for all those out there that don't really know who I am. Well, honey, you're going to learn all about it today. Let me tell you, honey, I have been the winner of Holiday Baking Championship Season 3, Food Network Star Season 13, and I also won Kids versus Adults during the Christmas season of 2018. Oh, honey, listen, that's way back, I can tell you. But I have been all around. I am a cookbook author. I do cooking shows and all kinds of things on the television. And, honey, listen, if you ain't never seen me, then you ain't never seen something exciting because you never know what I'm going to be wearing or what we're going to be cooking. But I also have a lovely, lovely co host now on Forking Around with Chef Jason. That's Angelina, honey. How are you, sugar?
I'm good, and I'm so glad. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while. Now, I'm no food professional, but I am a foodie at heart, and I'm so happy that you asked me to join you. So, you also, I think, want to mention you were on the go. I think that was our
Oh,
most
yeah.
recent kind of
Oh, yeah.
experience, a little bit different than a food show, but you were kind of the unofficial chef of the group, I think, on the season. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about your experiences, kind of how you got to where you are today, and how you got your first opportunity on the Food Network to let
Well,
everyone kind of
Lord,
learn
honey,
more a
you
bit
know
more
that.
about you.
Yeah, listen, that, honey, that's a story in itself. So I was raised in Kentucky on a huge farm. And my grandmother always cooked all the meals. She cooked the breakfast meal, the lunch meals, the supper meals. And of course, working on the farm, I had to be out in the fields and working all that. And I could have cared less about that. So I only cared about the food. Because listen, I was a fat child, honey. I loved to eat. So I was like, no, I don't want to work in these fields. So I asked my grandmother one day, could I stay with her and cook? And she said, Lord, honey, yes. So, and of course, that's where the Lord, honey come from because she said it all the time. And so I started cooking with her at the age of 6. And so it just became a very love of mine of seeing how that when people ate my grandmother's food, it made them so happy. And they were just so wonderfully overtaken by all this, of course, Southern cuisine, but because it is the comforts food. But and I thought, you know what? I want to be like my grandmother. I want to cook and feed people and make them happy through food. So that's really how I got my start in cooking. Of course, I still had to work a lot on the farm because we had cows to take care of and chickens to take care of and cooking meals every single day. And so the whole family would get together and we'd eat breakfast and then they would go work and then we'd fix lunch and they'd eat again. So really, I was raised around hard work and lots of food. Let's just put it that way. But then getting older in my teenage years, I decided that I wanted to start a catering business. And I wanted to do things, of course, in a small town of London, Kentucky. We didn't have huge events, but we had like church potlucks. And back then, weddings was like mince and cake and punch. Back then, that was the big celebration. Now it's big food and everything. But so I thought, I'd like to start doing a catering business that I could actually do some stuff so people would have more time to do other things. And so I started my catering business when I was 15. And I would do like church potlucks and I would do receptions and birthday parties. And we would even have people to order stuff to take to like homes of people when they would have a death in the family. Because that's a big thing in the South. When somebody passes away, you always take food to the house. And so then from there, anything that my grandmother couldn't teach me or that I didn't learn from her, of course, books started becoming one of my things of collecting cookbooks and reading all the great recipes and trying them out. And of course, if they didn't work out, honey, we just threw them out to the chickens and started over. But then the internet came along. And so then I wanted to start getting hoity toity, as my granny would say. And I would research different, like, recipes and stuff that I wanted to learn, like how to work more with chocolate or how to work with sugar or the big fancy desserts or the big fancy dishes that we all know today. And so then I would research those and do them over and over and over and over and over until I perfected those because I'm kind of OCD about perfection. But so then I went in from food into the floral industry. I got my cosmetology license and all that good stuff. And so then I decided that, I don't know if food is something I wanted to stay in. And so, there was so much I wanted to do, but everything kept leading me back to food. So every time I would do something, like I would be in the flower shop working and somebody'd say, "Oh, we're here to book a wedding." And I would do that. And then they said, "Well, do you know anybody that could do the meal after the wedding?" Well, I was like, "Well, I have a catering business too." So it kept leading me back to that food. And so I've done that for years. And then when I got in my 30s, I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to find some kind of work that has some retirement and a lot better insurance than what I got. So I went to work for the school system. And
Mm.
I worked for the Elliott County school system in Kentucky. And I was the cafeteria manager at Isonville Elementary, which is no longer there, but the people still there. They just consolidated schools. I'm like a dog with a squirrel. I get sidetracked all the time. But anyway, so when I was a cafeteria manager there, one snowy day in February of 2015, it was. We were out of school for snow, and I always had watched the Holiday Baking Championship. And I thought, I just wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could get on there and just try this because I'm very competitive and I love to do anything competition wise. And up to this, I had won some like local and state food competitions. But
Mhm.
so I thought, I wonder if I could do this. So I got on the computer and applied to be on Holiday Baking. Well, the next day I got a call and they said, "We love what we see. We got your application. We want to move you on." So, long story short, 6 weeks later, I get a call that says, "Guess what? You're going to be one of the contestants on Holiday Baking Championship." And so, going to LA and being on camera the first time and being on Holiday Baking was a dream of mine. And so every week that we done a different show, and I just kept showing them what this Southern boy could do. I was going on, people were going home and I kept staying and I thought, okay, well this, it felt surreal kind of that, just a dirt country boy from Kentucky could keep moving on. And everybody that was leaving the show that was getting voted off had been a classically trained pastry chef. So,
Mhm.
that was a big accomplishment for me too, to think, okay, there's people that's going home that, I'm just home trained. And so then of course end up winning it in the end. And that was a super honor. And then going into the next show, we were filming a Christmas special and it was kids versus adults. And I got to work with some of the kid bakers that had been on other seasons of the kids baking competition. And that was so fun because I've always liked to work with kids and teach them just like my grandmother did me. And then, of course, me and my friend, the kid that was with me, Jackson Fujimori, we actually won that episode. And so we won the whole thing. But
Mhm.
um, so then after that, one of the producers came to me and said, "You know what? You are perfect for television. You're perfect for camera. You've got this upbeat attitude and you just have a way to show people how to fun and to teach them all at the same time. We really have the show we want to pitch with you in it." And I said, "Cool, let's do it." And so by this time I was bit by the camera bug. Girl, I wanted to be all over the television and teaching people how to cook and all this good stuff. So we pitched this show to Food Network, and they say we love it, but we would love for Jason to be on Food Network Star. And I'm like, oh Lord, honey, I just don't know about this. This is the granddaddy of all cooking competitions. I don't know. And so they were like, "Oh, we think you can do it. We think, we're pretty sure you'll be okay." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And so I was like, "Well, how long can I think about it?" And they were like, "You got 20 minutes because the deadline is coming." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's do it." So I'm like, "Let's pack our drawers, honey. Get me the plane ticket. We on the way." So go on Food Network Star. That was the longest shoot I'd ever been on up to that date. It took us 10 weeks to film my
Oh
episode
wow.
season of Food Network Star. And of course, then doing that, there was people going home that was super classically trained chefs and they had everything under their belt of different competitions they had won, and places they'd been all over the world cooking for like kings and presidents and things like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this going to be another time that the country boy from Kentucky gets to whoop up on somebody? And of course it was. And so end up winning Food Network Star. um, and it just snowballed from there. So once you win Food Network Star, that's how you get your contracts to be on television, to do other shows. Then, of course, on from there, my show Best Baker in America was developed, and I was the head judge and host and a co-host of that. And then that ran for 4 seasons, and then we went on to holiday gingerbread, or Halloween gingerbread, haunted gingerbread. I can't remember what we called it now. And then it was just one show after another. So that's really how I got my start. As I say, long story short, but that was long story, not short. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got my start on television. Then, of course, writing 2 cookbooks. We had one that came out in 22, one that came out in 23, which are all still available, and you can get those online. And but it's one of those things that cooking and teaching people how to cook and things about food that people don't realize is the joy of my life, making people happy through food and happy to watch me on TV. It's all about having fun. We only go around one time. So I'm like, girl, listen, we going to make everybody happy at one time. So, but yeah, that's how I got my start on television.
Amazing. Well, so we obviously know that we are going to be talking about all kinds of things here on the podcast, between food trends, baking techniques, industry trends, behind the scenes stories that you're going to be able to share with us. But let's kind of just jump in. Here we are, January 2025, crazy. It's going to be a big year. What are some of kind of the food trends that you're seeing right now?
2025 has brought, I'm going to say in January, it has brought a lot of food trends that, of course, we are having a colder winter than normal. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm seeing that when the food trends was predicted for 2025 in the first quarter, which is January, February, March, we were seeing that it was going to be pared down new comfort food appetizers. And so I was like, comfort food appetizers, how is this going to work? And so I'm seeing that they're getting back into remember when fried mac and cheese was the big thing a
Mm-hmm.
couple years ago? Well,
Mm-hmm.
now they're pairing things with that, like buffalo fried mac and cheese bites.
Mm.
Or so they're pairing things together that we know is comfort food, but instead of doing the simplistic, they're elevating it a little bit. So, but they're calling it Southern Comfort appetizers. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, how's this going to work? Because, a lot of people, they don't grasp the idea of Southern comfort. And I think that was one of the reasons why they're trying to make that such a big trend. And so, but then that trend is like, okay, it got really cold in the first part of January, and people are like, okay, we're over this. We can't get out. It's snowy. It's icy. We can't do any of this stuff. So now what? Now what is going to be the food trend? So what I'm seeing that's going around now on like the other social media platforms and all over the place is everybody's going to like casseroles, and they're going to one meal plans or one pan plans, and they're doing like little fun things in their house, with like they can't get out and go anywhere. So with their own families, they're doing like, oh, they're doing like little parties, what we're doing, theme parties. So theme parties has always been big, but now we're seeing them coming back again. So, they're doing parties at home, and they're doing these parties to where it's like, okay, we're having fiesta night. So
Mm-hmm.
everything has to be fiesta style and all that stuff. And so they're working with ingredients that they have in their house because they can't even get to the grocery store because the roads are so bad. So there's a lot of different trends, and trends takes a part that um, trends change so quickly. So we have a set trend that we're trying to accomplish for 2025 in food. And now we're working with new trends because it's cold and nobody don't want to get out and do anything. So, but that is the two new trends that actually hit in January is we're getting back to casseroles. And it's not just like your Southern casseroles. It is, casseroles from anywhere. Like one of the biggest casseroles that I'm seeing right now that I checked out the other day and actually made, I wish I'd have took a picture, was a quesadilla
Ooh.
casserole. And it was so good. And you think quesadilla, how can you turn that into casserole? It was awesome. So you actually put the quesadillas together and then you layered it like a lasagna with
Mm.
cheese and refried beans and rice in between each layer of quesadilla, and then covered the top with cheese, and then you baked it for a few minutes, and when it got good melty, and it tasted just like you were eating a quesadilla dinner with a side of rice and beans. And it was so simple, it was so easy. There was like 6 ingredients in the whole thing. It was
Hmm.
awesome. So
Awesome.
but yeah, that's kind of the trends. I'm hoping we get past the cold so we can get back to those wonderful appetizer trends, because appetizers are going to be a big thing this year. And it's not
Mm.
only going to be sweet appetizers, but it's going to be savory appetizers. So it's going to be a mix of things. And it's going to be weird appetizers that we really don't think about. So one of my favorite appetizer trends that we're going to be kind of jumping into this year is, how I know we've heard of chicken and waffles. We've all heard of
Okay.
chicken and waffles.
Of
But
course.
have you ever heard of a falafel waffle?
No. So
Okay.
you mean like using the falafel like itself and like pressing it into a waffle?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So it is
interesting.
yeah, it
Hmm.
is very interesting. And so it's a falafel waffle bite. And then on top, I know that's a mouthful. They're gonna have to rename it, but I'm like, a falafel waffle bite. That's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah.
But so it's like a falafel waffle bite. It's just a small one. And then on top of it is curry fried chicken, and then it is
Ooh.
topped with a hot honey sauce. We're never going to get away from the hot honey, children. Let's
No, hot
face it.
honey is here to
Hot
stay.
honey is thing. We need a Lord Honey hot honey. We're going to work on that.
Yep, we'll have to work on
And
it.
then it has caviar on top of it.
Ooh, interesting.
But and don't shy away when you hear me say caviar. People go, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's so expensive." It's not. There is caviars out there that you can get that's just for looks and that pop and that little bit of saltiness, which we'll talk about once this trend kind of hits, and we might even show how to put it together. But caviar is one of those things. There is really good caviar out there that doesn't cost a lot, but you're getting like three to four different areas of the world in that one bite. So you're getting a falafel, you're getting curry chicken, you're getting a hot honey, and then you're getting caviar. And you're like, does this even go together? Yes, it does. I've already tasted it. I was just at a food and wine festival not long ago, and this was the number one trend bite at there's an event that we do at this. It's called Setting the Trends for the New Year.
Hmm.
This was one of the trends, and I talked to the chef that came up with it, and it was like she was all over the place, and I was like, girl, you I don't even know where you started with this. But anyway, it was so cool. I can't wait to us to get in that trend. But right now it's all about the cold weather trends, so it's all about
Yes.
that comfort food. So we'll start talking about falafel waffles, honey, when the warmer weather comes. So
Yeah, and it also January is National Soup Month, and I see
yes.
like a lot of people are becoming more creative with their soups. Like I don't know if you've seen like people turning in like the lasagna soup or a chicken pot pie soup. What has been kind of like your favorite soup that you love to kind of create, and tell us kind of how you make it?
So of course, we love Soup Month, honey, because let's put Soup Month right in the middle of the coldest month, and that's perfect for that. Soup Month is one of those that I probably eat soup about 3 times a week during the month
Oh
of
wow.
January. Whether I'm at my home in Florida or I'm at my home in Kentucky, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm going to eat soup in January. I love it. We all say, "Oh, we have to wait until cold weather to eat soup." Well, you don't, but since it's January and it's soup, my favorite soup that I don't know if have you ever had stuffed peppers?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Have you had cabbage rolls?
No, I have not.
Okay, that's a southern thing. So it's like a stuffed pepper, but it's rolled up in a cabbage leaf that
Okay.
is like tenderized through boiling it and blanching it and things like that.
Hmm.
So there is a stuffed pepper soup. There is a cabbage roll soup. But
Ooh.
what happens when you put them together? And so that was the big thing of mine is, I love stuffed peppers. I love cabbage rolls. And what happens when I can do them in one dish, in a one bowl that I can eat, because they take forever to make. And so I
Hmm.
took all the components of stuffed peppers, stuffed cabbage rolls, and I put that together in one soup. And honey, you talk about something that'll knock your drawers off. Listen, you want it every single day. Of course, we went through that trend. You remember the cabbage soup? Everybody, you're probably too young for this, but the cabbage soup, everybody wanted to lose weight. It was called the weight loss soup diet.
No, I've
And
not.
it was horrible. It was awful. So you ate cabbage soup for like 6 days, and you were never out of the bathroom. There's no wonder you lost weight. But so this soup is not that at all. So for the ones out there that's listening to this and watching whatever and thinking, oh gosh, he's talking about that old cabbage soup. No, he's not. He's talking about a southern stuffed pepper and a southern cabbage roll. So this soup is, you start out with onions and bell peppers, and I prefer like red or yellow or orange or something like that. The green pepper can be a little strong, and you just start out with celery, or not celery. You start out with onions and peppers, and you saute that in bacon grease. Okay, so bacon grease. This is your intro, Angelina, to all things bacon, bourbon, and butter, honey, because there's going to be a lot of that flying around, okay? So
Yes.
you saute that in bacon grease.
Okay.
And then when that gets done, you chop up cabbage very finely and you saute that down with all that. And then you add in your 50% ground beef, and you use 50% of ground pork. So you have pork and beef, and the beef can be whatever you want it to be, 80-20, 91, whatever you want it to be, your favorite. And so then you add that in and you brown that off with that. You add a little bit of salt, a little bit of white pepper, difference in white pepper and black pepper.
Hmm. Okay.
White pepper, you get the flavor. Black pepper, you get the heat. Okay, children. So just there's your tidbit for the day. The two different stories of the peppers.
Oh wait,
And
real quick. You
so
said black pepper for both. Which one was it?
so white pepper is for
Okay.
flavor, and
Okay.
black pepper is for heat. So you get
Gotcha.
flavor of white pepper. When you use white pepper, you get that flavor. And when you use
Hmm.
black pepper, you're going to get more of a heat out of that pepper. So we're using white pepper and salt. And then you add in your crushed tomatoes, honey. It can be can crushed, it can be hand crushed, however you want to crush them with your feet. I don't care how you crush them, just get them in the pot. And so then you add in your crushed tomatoes, and you're going to add in 2 tablespoons of white distilled vinegar. Who would have knew that? Who would know? Who would know that that was even in that dish? And so white distilled vinegar, and then you add in just a teaspoon of chili powder. Can be any chili powder, hot chili powder, mild chili powder, up to you. And then you let that simmer for a while. And so we're creating this soup that is simmering, and you're creating those flavors that are all Dayton right now, honey. We got the peppers and the onions, the Dayton, the beef and the pork and all this stuff and the cabbage. They're just Dayton. So we got to get them to know each other, so they Dayton. So we just letting it simmer real slow. Only about 30, 45 minutes. It's a pretty quick soup. And so now at 45-minute mark, honey, they married. Honey, they all up in their business, all right? And all the flavors is all through everything, okay? And so then once it gets done, then you add in 2 cups of cooked rice. It can be brown rice. I prefer brown rice because I like the texture of it better. White rice, jasmine rice, there's millions of rices out there. Your favorite. But make sure it's cooked. You add that in, stir it up, get it all in there good, let it cook about another 5-10 minutes, take it off, you're done. Put it in a bowl, honey. Cover it with shredded pepper jack cheese and
Ooh.
dive in with a spoon, honey, and hope that nobody knocks at your door because they smell it cooking from the street away and they want some because you're going to want to eat it all. But it is a cross between stuffed pepper and cabbage rolls, and it becomes this new soup that nobody has ever come out with. And so I've read, it's not even out there. There's a bell pepper soup or stuffed pepper soup. There's a cabbage roll soup, but there's not one together. So we
Hmm.
call it a cab bell soup. Cab bell
Oh.
soup. Hmm.
Okay. We
Yeah.
might have to get you video filming yourself making it so we
Yeah,
can all
of
follow
course.
along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's listen, woo, honey. It just warms the cockles of your heart. You start eating that, and it just warms you from the top to the bottom. You're gonna love it. Hmm.
It sounds delicious. Well,
Well,
I
what's
think
your
one of our
favorite soup, though?
My favorite soup, I mean I love a good butternut squash or like cream of tomato soup. Lately I got an immersion blender, so I feel like I've just loved throwing in like different vegetables and kind of like blending it all together. But I also love like anything with like a chicken noodle or like pasta soup. I really like the simplistic recipes and kind of like what you said, elevating it a little bit with
Yeah.
little things here or there. But hopefully as you and I continue to get to know each other, I will learn some new favorite recipes to
There
kind
you
of
go.
follow. But I
Yeah.
do want to try making the lasagna soup. That's one thing I have
Oh,
not
it's
tried
good.
to make yet. That's what I want to try. But I want to try making the Campbell or the Campbell soup.
Campbell soup.
Um, Campbell soup. So I might have to try that this week. But I think one of our last things we should kind of talk about is obviously with January, a lot of people come into the new year with new resolutions, healthy eating. How can we continue to eat good, flavorful food that is also comfort food, but maybe make it a little bit healthier to kind of hold up our resolutions for as long as we can?
Well, first of all, don't make resolutions. No, I'm just kidding. That's one thing. We all try to eat a little healthier in January. It makes us feel better.
Yeah.
Whether we're actually doing it or not past January, that's a whole nother story. But, it all makes us feel better. We're like, yay, it's a new year. I'm going to eat healthier and I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables. It's not about the way that you change your meal so much or your eating habits. It's how much you eat. Of course, it's moderation. So, don't deprive your body of certain things. So, like, let's say if you were eating a loaf of bread a week, maybe only eat half a loaf, okay? But you can change things. So, I have a bunch of friends that in January they eat no meat, so they eat all plant based. So, it's all about the black bean burgers. It's about the plant based burgers. It's about uh, the fake bacon, and we don't want to even talk about that. But
It's a
um,
sensitive
it's
subject
such a
here.
sensitive subject here. But the one thing that I find that I love to do in January is I do what's called clean eating. So
Okay.
I don't eat as much of heavier meat. Like I don't eat as much red meat. I don't eat as much pork. I don't eat as much chicken. So I eat more like turkey. I eat a lot of fish in January. So it's one of those, but I don't want to get away from my comfort roots because I love my comfort food. Your mac and cheese, honey, and your lasagna and all that. But you can do it healthier. Just like if you want lasagna, instead of using the noodles, you use eggplant for the noodles and you just grill
Mm.
those and use it in there like a noodle in your lasagna, and it makes it lighter and healthier for you. But you don't really miss the noodle because eggplant is such a dense vegetable, it tastes like a noodle. Okay, so we replace some of the pasta with eggplant, and then mac and cheese. One of my favorite things to replace the noodles in January is cooked cauliflower. So I make
Oh, okay.
a mac and cheese that's made with cauliflower and cheese, and you just blanch it or steam the cauliflower, and then you do your cheese sauce. And so we're lightening that up. We're taking away a little of the pasta, okay? And so, that's a way to really lighten things up for January. So, don't deprive yourself. If you go the first 14 days, you're like, oh my God, I have got to have some good spaghetti and meatballs. Have the spaghetti and meatballs, but only eat half of it. So, that's the one thing I would say is, eat cleaner. So, I like to eat clean in the month of January. I do eat a lot more fruits and vegetables in the month of January, a lot more fruit salads in the month of January. So, go to your local farmer's market or your local fruit store or your local grocery store and get all those great fruits, the apples, the pears, the tangerines, the grapes, we still see cranberries in January in the
Mm-hmm.
grocery stores. Add the cranberries in there because they're good for your kidneys, honey. It's called cleaning yourself out. So, and come back and make a fruit salad. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like a fruit salad because it's just fruit cut up in a bowl." No, it don't have to be fruit. I don't know where that accent come from, but you don't have to cut up fruit in a bowl. I do mine. I put my fruit in a bowl, and then I do this really light, like glaze on it, which is
Okay.
honey, lime juice. If you want to get crazy, add a little tequila in there. But it's honey and lime juice and lemon juice and just a touch of cinnamon, and you mix that together and then glaze your fruit. And so we're eating clean. We're not eating refined sugar. We're eating honey. We're eating natural sugar. Agave. You could use agave in this as well.
Okay.
So it takes it from boring fruit salad to, hey, I'm going to have a bowl of fruit salad. So, but that would be what I would say in the month of January is clean eating. Eat clean.
Mm, okay.
Don't fry, but eat clean. Kind of cut out some of the red meat and the pork. Eat the bacon, not the pork loin. Okay, that's what I say. Don't
No,
do
I
the.
think I agree with the clean eating. I think again, in moderation is important because I think it's what's important to know for people is if it's something you really love to eat and you're saying I'm only going to do it for the month of January, if it's like a small, measurable or at least realistic change that you made to your diet, you're more likely to carry it on. But if it's something so drastic that you used to eat red meat every single day, now you're never eating it, you're more likely to not kind of keep that habit on
Yeah,
to the next month for the
yeah,
most part. But
exactly.
yeah, well, I think before we wrap up, I think something fun that we can do every month is have a challenge for our listeners to recreate on their own. We can then view a submission on Instagram or social media and choose kind of a winner, maybe have them on to ask a few questions for the next episode. So I don't know if you have one yet for today, but what should be our January either baking or cooking challenge for our listeners to recreate?
Oh, I think let's think. What could they do for the month of January? You know what I think I would like to see in the month of January is I want to see your take on what you think is the best soup or stew that you've made or ate in the month of January. Now, this could be something that you've made, or maybe a family member has made. Maybe you're not the cook in the family. Not everybody can cook, but that's why Chef Jason and Angelina is here now working around because we're going to teach you how to cook, okay?
Yes,
And I think that it's all about the soup and stews in January. Since it is
that's
soup
true.
month, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, everybody out there, take your best shot of the soup or stew that you've made. And yes, chili is a soup. Take your best picture of that, share it with us. We're going to go through them. We're going to see what this is all about. Tell us a little bit about it. We're going to pick out our top two, three, and then
Yep.
we're going to talk about them. And you might get a spot that you get to come on and talk to us about what the soup is that you actually thought was the best. Because let me tell you, I love to encounter everybody, and I want to see your soup or your stew.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll have to put that down. Submissions will be due by January 31st, and then our first episode in February is when we'll be able to really talk about them and explore them. But thank you so much for everyone tuning in to our very first episode. We're so excited to finally be doing this. Throughout our show, we will have different guests from both the food industry, reality TV industry, really open out there to hear about their kind of food traditions and favorites and everything. But in the meantime, subscribe, leave us a review, and we look forward to talking to you next time.
Absolutely. We see y'all later.